Also, Prince Bandar of Saudi Arabia has threatened the Sochi Olympics, hasn't he? He's
actually this was a few weeks ago now. He went to, it was all reported in the Daily Telegraph, he went to see President Putin and said, look, let's do a deal over Syria. You stop supporting Assad and we won't attack we won't get our Chechen rebels to attack the Winter Olympics. That's a deal. Okay. And Putin just said, no, it's not.
Naughty Prince Bandar.
Driving home with BCFM 93.2, the station you can count on.
So, is Chancellor of the Exchequer George Osborne a cokehead in denial? Well, there's a fascinating interview this week on a brand new internet channel called The People's Voice, which has been talked about for probably years now, and it's had a couple of false starts, but it's actually there online now. So why is Osborne trying to cover up his coke-snorting exploits from the 1990s? We hear now former dominatrix and author of Chief Whip, the new book, Chief Whip, Natalie Rowe, and how she was raided by the police too when she released a photo of herself with George Osborne and a gram or so of cocaine sitting on the table in front of them. His lawyers apparently have been threatening the papers not to print it. So let's have a listen now to Natalie Rowe's interview with Sonia Poulton, the former Daily Mail columnist, on the People's Voice TV this week.
The girls that worked for me, and I'm going to be clear, they were prostitutes.
Right.
I only sent them on one occasion in 1994 to the Bullingdon Club. I'd sat down with Christopher Coleridge, George Osborne, and William Sinclair to describe the kind of girls they wanted me to send, and I was A, to supply the girls, and B, to supply the cocaine. I sat with all three of them, George, William, Christopher, and discussed what type of girls, how much drugs they wanted. They described what kind of girls they wanted, i.e. this Naomi Campbell lookalike. Right. What they meant was they didn't want anyone fat.
Right.
They wanted tall, slim.
Right. Now, I'd like to draw on some evidence here. I'm sure many people have seen this picture. This is currently being pulled off at the internet at a rate of knots. Could you please tell us the truth about this picture once and for all?
Papers have known about what I'm about to say to you now since 2005, but for some reason they either daren't print it or they're being bullied. And I know for a fact that Osborne's henchmen, called lawyers, put the heat on a lot of the papers,
right.
which I'm very disappointed about. When I thought that we live in a society where we had freedom of speech. But we've got a government right now that's literally trying to censor every single thing that comes out that is against them or about them, right. or doesn't help them. That photograph there, the drug dealer that was there on the night was taking the photo. I said to him, be careful, we don't want to have the cocaine in the actual picture. So I actually moved the vase thinking it would actually hide the coke. Clearly it didn't. And that's why I got the flowers in my face. It isn't just a line. But it's a few lines. It's probably about a gram of cocaine there, of which George Osborne took on that night and prior to that night, regularly, in my company and others. Lately, they decided to cut that bit of the picture out. Clearly, Osborne's got a little part to play in that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I read that you then subsequently experienced a dawn raid by drug officers.
Yeah, had the radio on LBC. Love to listen to that in the mornings.
Right.
And I heard a knock on the door, and when I looked at the peephole, there was a person dressed as I now know it was a police officer, but he was dressed as a postman.
Right.
And
dressed as a postman.
He was dressed as a postman.
Okay.
And he said he had a delivery for Natalie Rowe. Well, Natalie Rowe isn't actually my real name, and I wouldn't normally get a delivery in that name.
Right.
So I was suspicious. But I'd had a visit the night before from a journalist from the Mail on Sunday.
Right.
So I thought it was another journalist trying to speak to me. So I said to him, leave it on the doorstep and I'll come out and get it. And he put it on the floor and I could see through the people. But I thought, well, the postman wouldn't do that because you've got to sign for it.
Right.
But he did actually look past and pretend that he was reading. I said, who's it for? He said, N. Rowe. He then went round the corner. I could still see he hadn't gone out the actual building. And so I opened it with my chain on and said, so you can take the pass with you. I can't remember if I said I don't believe you're a postman, but I said, take it with you. Just as I shut the door, I looked through people again and saw just a rush of black figures. And it was, open the door, drug squad. And I had a top on and my knickers. And I said, can I just put my skirt on? And they said, no, and open it now, otherwise we're going to break the door in. So I literally had to open the door at that instant.
I'd like to talk a little bit about this book.
Okay.
You refer to a character called Joe in there.
Right.
Who is Joe?
Well, it's not Boris Johnson from what people have been saying.
Okay.
Joe is George.
George Osborne.
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell
And
me...
can I also say, I
Yes.
never said at any point, which I've read in the papers, the day that Sunday People printed the story
Yeah.
of the serialisation,
Yeah.
I didn't say that Joe was not George Osborne.
Right.
And my publishers got involved with that and their lawyers.
Right.
And it's annoying.
Right.
I didn't want to change any of the names in the book.
Right.
It was taken out of my control.
Who took that out of your control?
But my publisher, and it was also my agent.
Right.
Martin, fascinating, I think. But this is using the pressure of lawyers to actually try and suppress this story, suppress the photo, this sort of thing. Why won't George Osborne just come clean about this?
Well, I mean, I wish he would. I mean, obviously we're all having a laugh at his expense if he's been caught out here. But I mean, what is he actually doing? He's basically paying for sex, which isn't illegal, and he's taking drugs, which is. And you could argue that both of these things are his own business. And and for most ordinary people, I'd say it is their own business. But if you're a politician claiming to be anti-drugs, as he does, and presumably anti-paid sex, as he also probably is, then you're a hypocrite, and that's why you're fair game.
But I mean, a lot of people would ask: is he the right sort of person? Is he reliable enough to actually be put in charge of the entire nation's finances?
Well, throughout World War II, Winston Churchill was drinking brandy for breakfast, apparently, but people put up with it because they could see that he had other qualities that were worth having. I don't think it should rule you out of being in politics if you have taken drugs at some stage or other. In fact, virtually all major politicians on both sides of the Atlantic probably have,
Anyway,
apart from a few.
Okay.
But it's the hypocrisy that's the problem.
You want to follow this sort of thing, it's online. It's called www.thepeoplesvoice.tv.
Driving home with BCFM 93.2, the station you can count on.
Finally then tonight, Beast Technology. How would you like a superpower pill that lets you into cars and through security just by touching things after you've swallowed one of these pills? Let's hear now from DARPA's former...